closed captions, you will see an option in the menu at the bottom of your screen. Please click and choose Show Subtitle. There will also be sign language interpretation available, and they will be visible in the gallery at all times. If you would like to pin ASL interpreters, you may also do so on your screen. I'll now let the interpreters share more about available language interpretation this evening.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Good afternoon. My name is Flavia. I'm working with Mar Language Services, and we will be providing Spanish language interpretation. If you would like to listen to this forum into Spanish at this time, please take a look at your screen. Go to the bottom of your screen and click on Language Interpretation and choose Spanish. And I will say it now in Spanish. Buenas tardes. Para mantener el compromiso de justicia lingüística, este foro será con interpretación simultánea al español. Para acceder a la interpretación simultánea, por favor, en estos momentos vayan abajo de su pantalla y opriman interpretación de idiomas y luego opriman español. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I believe we're ready to start. And so it's my honor to introduce my colleague, Nikisha Williams. She is the Miami Foundation's Managing Director of Collective Impact, and she will be introducing our third 2022 Our Miami the People's Forum for District 2 this evening.
Good evening and welcome to the third of the 2022 Our Miami the People's Forum. It's an honor to welcome you all in advance of this year's major election season here in Miami. This year, half of our county commission will be refreshed. So tonight, we'll discuss matters of importance for our residents and our county as people gear up to vote on Election Day. Commissioners play a huge role in shaping the future of Miami, and often the elections are decided by just a small number of votes. Everyone here tuning in tonight, you will shape the future of who leads us. Tonight, we're focused on District 8. That's portions of southeastern Miami-Dade County, including Kendall and the Redland, along with 3 municipalities, Cutler Bay, Homestead, and Palmetto Bay. If you're here tonight, you know that civically engaged communities are stronger communities. And here at the Miami Foundation, we are obsessed with building a stronger Miami for everyone. Remember, who you elect will impact not only your neighborhoods, but all of our county. This forum was a team effort. Thank you to our partners, AARP Florida, IET Community Trust, Catalyst Miami, the Clio Institute, Dade Heritage Trust, Disability Independence Group, Engage Miami, Miami Homes for All, Miami Waterkeeper, Parks Foundation of Miami-Dade, Radical Partners, Transit Alliance, and the many residents, donors, and friends who sent questions that we will hear tonight. And of course, big love to my team at the Miami Foundation, especially Sam, Courtney, and Jess. Your work matters and you matter. Before passing the floor to Nancy, I would like to remind our viewers that these are not debates, these are forums. We're here to lift up ideas and demonstrate leadership, not to cut anyone down. Let's model the best of what politics can be. It is now my pleasure to introduce this evening's moderator, Nancy Akram from the Miami Herald.
Good evening. I am so happy to be here. And I'm thrilled at the number of questions that came from individuals and organizations in this community. The women who seek to represent District 8 on the Miami-Dade County Commission have a good grasp of its challenges and its potential. And at least some of the issues it is facing will probably sound familiar to county residents no matter where they live. Traffic and transportation, public safety, the high cost of housing, the environment. You'll be hearing from current Commissioner Danielle Cohen-Higgins and challenger Karen Baez-Willis. Another candidate in this race, Alicia Arellano, was also invited. I asked the candidates to contain their responses to 90 seconds. I will keep an eye on the timer if they cannot. With that, we have so many good questions. I'd like to just get started. I'm going to start with Commissioner Cohen-Higgins. You were appointed to this position a few years ago to replace the current mayor who was on the commission. Why should you be elected to a full term?
Thank you so much to the Miami Foundation. Thank you, Nancy, for being a moderator this evening. And thank you so much to all of the partnering organizations. And most of all, thank you to the residents that are watching and tuning in this evening to this very important forum. I should be elected to serve another 4 years because I'm running on my record. In only 18 months in office, I have an incredible list of accomplishments to tout, including connecting a road that will provide much needed traffic relief in the district, adding 154 additional parking spaces to Black Point Marina so those with a boat in South Dade can access the waterway, moving our Ag Patrol, our law enforcement officers into the Redlands so that our response times for our residents in the Redland can be far reduced, including creating programs like Safe Summers and acquiring $6 million from my first legislative session in Tallahassee to commit to redeveloping our South Dade Trail. I am a proud product of this community. District 8 knows me and I know District 8, and I'm humbly asking for their support to continue the hard work that I've been doing and the results that I've delivered for the next 4 years.
Thank you. Ms. Baez-Willis, why have you chosen to seek this seat? Is it a comment on the job that the incumbent is doing?
Much for having me for the Miami Foundation. Am I muted? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for having me this evening in the Miami Foundation, and thank you for hosting this, Ms. Ankrum, and of course, everybody from District 8 that is tuning in. So my name is Karen Biswallis, actually, and I'm your number 115 on your ballot. So the reason I decided to run is that I came to Miami as a non-native speaker from Puerto Rico, and at that very young age, I really had to advocate for my mom once I learned how to speak English. And I saw the challenges that she was facing trying to get just simple services for our family. That really moved me and made me become an advocate. As a mother, wife, I'm a current resident. I've been very active in my community as a nurse. And really, when the COVID crisis hit, I saw that there was a lack of advocacy and really a lack of voice for the residents in the southern part of our district. And so that really is what caused me to come out and run and advocate for our residents here, not advocate for our lobbyists, not advocate for special interests, but really be there on the dais to give a voice for those residents that don't have a voice, for those residents that don't have anybody that has the time of a commissioner in front of a commissioner lobbying for things. I want to be the voice for the people. Yo quiero ser la voz para los residentes del Distrito 8. And I can bring that. The advocacy of a nurse, I can absolutely come to the dais as your voice.
Thank you so much. This is a South Miami-Dade district. The current commission has twice delayed a vote expanding the urban development boundary, the UDB, for a commercial project. This has sparked a fight between environmental groups and developers. Should the UDB be moved to accommodate more development, commercial development? Ms. Baez-Willis?
Well, thank you for that question, Ms. Ankrum. And I actually had a very extensive educational session, I would say, from the Hold the Line Coalition. They had so much information that they provided me to learn, how delicate those lands are, but really the impact of moving that line over and actually taking over those 800 acres. And I'm a very steadfast believer that we should not move the UDB over for commercial purposes or industrial purposes. We really need to hold that line and preserve our national park. And so for that reason, and really all the evidence-based scientific evidence that the Hold the Line Coalition presented to me, I'm a steadfast believer that the UDB should remain where it's at.
I'd like to just follow up with something that you said. You said that you don't believe it should be moved for commercial or industrial purposes. What about for residents, homes?
So thank you for opening that up. So when I spoke with the Hold the Line Coalition, they do have some areas that they've addressed or that they've identified that they would be not comfortable or happy with taking over as residencies, but they would see a decrease in the environmental impact that putting residences there. So if we have an absolute and urgent need for additional urban sprawl, I believe that working in collaboration with the Hold the Line Coalition, with the Everglades Park, we may look for an area that will not have the impact on our environment and will maybe help with the housing situation. Again, this is really working in partnership with the Hold the Line Coalition that is there to preserve and protect our Everglades.
Commissioner?
Yes, so I have fought staunchly against this particular application. It's entirely within District 8, 800 acres, larger than 12 municipalities out of our 34 here in Miami-Dade County. And listen, the standard in Miami-Dade County, in order to move the urban development boundary, is by design a very arduous burden. This application does not meet this burden. And I have been very vocal on numerous occasions, very public on the dais and in front of the press against this particular application, not because it's my personal belief that it should not be moved, but because the experts have opined that this would be endangering to our Everglades, that this would be endangering to Biscayne Bay. And this is a nonpartisan issue. When you have United States senators like Marco Rubio or Madam Mayor coming together to write an op-ed piece to say that this line should not be moved for this project, I'm going to pay attention. When we have the Department of Interior and all of our environmental groups coming together to say that this is a problem, I'm going to pay attention. This application is very large. It's very problematic for District 8, and I have been the #1 opponent against moving the urban development boundary, and I'll continue to do so when elected to serve for the next 4 years.
What are the top 3 issues that each of you think is facing this district? Commissioner, briefly.
Yeah, I believe safety is at the top of everyone's list. I believe our economy is #2, and I believe transportation is equally high on everyone's list. I think everybody pays tax dollars to make sure that when they call 911, that a law enforcement officer is going to be at their front door within minutes. I also believe that everybody wants to make sure that their banks are okay and that they're able to pay their bills and feed their families. And transportation in Miami-Dade County, it's not a unique issue to South Dade and District 8. Our entire county faces these issues, which is why I have put forth a very aggressive agenda and accomplished real results in each of these areas.
Thank you. Ms. Baez-Willis.
So I'm aligned with some of her concerns. I do believe that traffic and transit are 2 separate issues, and really the traffic situation that we have here in the southern end of the county and the county as a whole really is, I wouldn't use the word catastrophic, but I would definitely use extremely concerning. Having drive into Jackson, Maine, and I said this yesterday in an additional forum, we were, 836 is really a parking lot at times, and traffic and transit really is a concern for most. They're spending a lot of times in their cars versus spending time with their families and their loved ones and doing things that they enjoy. So I do believe that traffic is an issue. The other one, I would say housing and the rents. That is definitely a crisis of epic proportions. And having spoken to some of the residents, some of them are actually either deciding whether or not to use their medication, or they're not able to utilize and pay for durable medical equipment. So people on fixed incomes and renters are really concerned with the rent crisis. And then finally, I would really consider would be also our, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Traffic, transit, and safety. I would say we have, having run the trauma center at Jackson South, we really did see the impact of violence within our community from actually the Keys on up. And I do believe the safety is an additional concern that we need to address.
Thank you. You both talked about traffic. And what is it going to take to get specifically South Dade moving? There are quite a few legacy transportation projects, the South Corridor, the Better Bus Network, as well as some other proposed projects. Can you give us your thoughts, please, about the corridor, the BRT corridor? Do you support that? What else is needed to get traffic both moving and off our roads in South Dade, in your district specifically? Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, I am supportive of bus rapid transit, but begrudgingly, right? Because we all, especially in South Dade, are bruised by the fact that we paid for, negotiated, and voted on the half-penny sales tax to get rail. And I say that the county line does not end at Dadeland. And this is why South Dade needs an effective and an aggressive voice to be able to deliver actual results on providing traffic relief and transportation solutions. I was just out at the Bus Rapid Transit Way a couple of weeks ago, looking at the progress and determining what is necessary to make sure that we get the ridership that we need so that we can convert those bus lines to rail, which is what the residents of South Dade absolutely want. And it is something that we absolutely cannot give up on. We are known for being a world-class city, a world-class county, but we can only be a world-class county, and city if our residents have the ability to have effective transportation. And currently, it is a huge issue in Miami-Dade County, and I'm going to solve it by making sure we're doing everything we can within our $10 billion budget to make sure that our bus rapid transit system is safe, it is reliable, it is clean, and it is an area that's inviting for our residents where families will feel safe going with their children, with their families, parking their cars and waiting for that bus. Public transportation is our solution for the future of transportation, but we have to get our residents to buy in on it.
Ms. Bias-Willis.
So the BRT really does need to become and increase their ridership. We need to really incentivize. If we want to kind of have behaviors from people, we need to incentivize those behaviors. And, right now our bus routes, just our regular current bus route, as I was walking within the district and driving within the district, a lot of our bus depots, if you would, or where people pick up the bus, just are not attractive. There's no shelter, there's no seating, there's absolutely no way of coming in from behind the elements. And when you have heat indexes of 103 degrees, it's just something that people don't want to use. And as a car-centric community, we really need to make sure that those buses and what the bus lanes that people are taking, they can utilize. Rail is years down the way and people want results now. I think that the way the busway is going out, it's looking beautiful. It's absolutely going to increase our ridership, but we need to incentivize those behaviors. And so, either through tax cuts with the gasoline station, giving ability for them to be able to ride the rail or the bus through their employers, we need to incentivize that behavior.
This question is from the Transit Alliance. Given recent high-profile deaths along the Rickenbacker Causeway, bicyclists specifically, and the fact that Florida is the second worst state in the country for pedestrian and bike safety, what actions would you take to make our roads safer for all users? Ms. Bias-Willis?
Well, unfortunately, I have been the recipient of those patients, and we really need to be able to share the road. And, I know that we've been painting our road screens, so where there's going to be pedestrian and bicycle traffic, we need to have that throughout our community and outer county, wherever we're going to have share the road between bicyclists and actual cars. We also need to have some sort of a physical barrier that's going to really protect the riders from the cars that are zooming by them. At Rickenbacker Causeway, when you have people driving by at 50 or 60 miles an hour and you're a bicyclist being struck, that's just not a survivable injury. So we need to have some sort of a physical barrier between those riding their bikes and those sharing the roads. I believe that just a simple green painting of the line, if somebody's distracted, with distracted driver or they're impaired, is not going to add the necessary protection from those riders.
Thank you. And Commissioner?
Yeah, my heart breaks for the families of those that just recently lost their life and the many more that have lost their lives to cyclist accidents here in Miami-Dade County. And South Dade and District 8 is a very large cycling community. I am one of them. My family and I, we ride the Old Cutler Trail and many trails in our district quite frequently. And what do I propose to make it safer? Invest in our trails. Miami-Dade County is not a county that is known for its bike trails. We only have a couple that are known. The South Dade Trail is really one that needs heavy investment. It is a legacy project that I am working on that I acquired $6 million to start on, because listen, if you look at projects, for example, like the Atlanta Beltline, that is not only a safe bikeway for cyclists and pedestrians, it completely revitalized that community. And that's exactly what I want for South Dade. Most of our residents don't even know that the South Dade Trail exists. Instead, our bicyclists and our cyclist community use Old Cutler Road, causing traffic to back up for miles. If they were to have a safe place that would have tree canopies and good lighting to ride that's 20 miles, that would move our cyclist community to that trail. And that's exactly the project that I'm not talking about getting to work on, but that I've actually gotten to work on. And I look forward to completing that project.
I'd also like, am I allowed to rebuttal on that?
Go right ahead. Just 30 seconds, please, quickly.
Are we allowed rebuttal if we name the candidate specifically or on every single question and every single answer?
No, not on every single question, please. If there is an accusation or an allegation against another candidate, yes. I would ask that we keep it civil. And because we have so many questions to get through, that we really keep that to a minimum. However, she did ask, and so please take 30 seconds quickly to rebut.
Thank you. And it's not an attack. I just wanted to make the statement that I'm not speaking about ridership for leisure. People are using the bikeways and the bicycles to get to work. And so that ability to take a trail is just not always an option. So we have to have some sort of physical barriers when people are utilizing their bicycles, especially today with the gas prices that we have. People have had to remove themselves from their vehicles and utilize bikes and alternate methods of transportation. So I'm just really saying, I'm suggesting a physical barrier when people have to get to work and not use it for leisure, which is what trails are built for.
Okay, thank you. There are county proposals to address the deepening housing crisis here, including increasing density in single-family housing and building taller buildings near transit. What do you think should be done on these proposals? How should they be handled? Commissioner?
Yeah, so, I think infill is going to be a great option for not only addressing the affordability crisis, but the inventory crisis that's directly related to it. I think that the mayor put forth a very, very good proposal recently on creating an infill program that will allow a lot more single family residents to be developed within the urban development boundary. I think that building density along the corridors makes sense in certain areas. I mean, this is a fight that we're in right now with the municipalities all over this county regarding the RTZ proposal, and a number of municipalities in my district are very much against it. So I don't believe that it's a one size fits all as it pertains to building high rises along the corridor, because all of our municipalities are different. We have 34 in Miami-Dade County, and those municipalities that absolutely don't want high rises in their backyard should have a voice and should be able to say, not in my backyard for those high rise developments. And so I don't think that development should be all along the corridor throughout the entirety, but in certain pockets, it's certainly appropriate.
Okay, Ms. Baez-Willis.
I agree with that. Absolutely. We do need to stand behind us commissioners by our municipalities. They do have the pulse on the constituents within their areas. I don't believe that the current plan that was published about the RTZ and the high rises that are 15 to 25 stories along the RTZ is appropriate. There are specific areas in which I believe that type of density would be appropriate for the district. However, we do need to abide by the desires of those municipalities. Then that's the reason why they incorporated, and that's really the purpose of the commissioners, to abide by what those mayors are saying that their people want. But that we do have to address having some bus-centric housing somewhere along the corridor where it is appropriate. We do need to address that and look into that.
And how would you address the lack of affordable rental housing for low-income and working people, whether in your district or countywide?
Well, unfortunately, when taxes are passed, that if the taxes are not passed and the landlords are not able to have some sort of a tax break, that impact tax on our basic necessities, on our infrastructure, such as Miami-Dade County Public Schools, water and sewer, fire rescue, that's going to be passed on to someone. And unfortunately, it does get passed on to those renters. I believe that in the current economy right now, it would have been nice to have had some sort of additional tax break on our homeowners, especially those homes that are not homesteaded. That tax impact is going to be fully felt by those landlords. So I believe that would have been an additional incentive or ability for those renters.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Yeah, again, I'm running on my record on this, right? I supported waiving impact fees so that the construction of these affordable units can be faster and quicker. I supported raising the cap so that our surtax program can be accessible to more individuals. I created a pilot program looking at modular housing, which is housing that is created faster and cheaper so that our residents can have access to that product on our county land. Infill is also a really important option that the mayor has explored, and I really applaud her for her efforts. We're looking at real estate reimagined here. Just because a county property has an office building on it, for example, does not mean that that's the highest and best use. We need to look at these properties and turn them into affordable housing units for our residents. The mayor has done that through an announcement with our superintendent, turning certain schools into housing for teachers. That sort of effort needs to continue so that we can allow the American dream to be accessible to all of our residents here in Miami-Dade County.
Would either of you support a rent control initiative, Commissioner?
I don't support rent control. I've never supported rent control. It doesn't work. If you look at the municipalities and the cities where rent control is enacted, it simply does not work. That is not the solution that we need here in Miami-Dade County. And I do not support rent control. New York is a perfect example. The studies are very, very long on why rent control does not work. Instead, we need to increase the supply in order to have rents controlled. I was also proud to support the Tenant Bill of Rights that encourages and ensures ensures additional protections to our tenants here in Miami-Dade County. So there are a number of measures in place, but I do not support rent control.
Thank you. Ms. Bias-Willis?
No, I actually do not support rent control at all. And in fact, when you're publishing supporting a tenant bill of rights, what happened to the landlord bill of rights? We need to also publish that. And when you waive these impact fees, the people that are benefiting from these are your builders. Those impact fees need to be built. Streets need to be built. Schools need to be built. EMS still needs to be paid for. So those impact fees are only going to be passed on to the taxpayers. It's an additional burden on us. So I don't believe that waiving impact fees is going to really increase or help us at all with our housing prices.
Thank you. This is from one of our attendees. I hope this person is here. What are your plans specifically for the waterways? I.e. ferry service from Black Point Marina to Bayside. The question continues, boaters appreciate the massive addition to parking at Black Point Marina. What's the next step? Ms. Bias-Willis?
So really, we want to live, work, and play in this wonderful town that we have so near the water. And I do believe that there's additional marinas that we can identify and really utilize within District 8. And also we can partner up with FPL, that they do have ability to have dry dock storage, so that when you go out on your boat, you're not having to go out at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and wait in line to try and be able to get out and boat. So, you know, the marina issue is definitely a real issue here in South Dade. We have over 78,000 licensed boaters and only 1,400 boat slips. And so that's disproportionate with the desire to use. So we have to really look at creative ways at partnering up with community, with FPL and other areas that do have the ability to have dry dock storage, and see if we can do either a monthly fee or whatever it is, something original, but that we do need to increase our boat slips, and our ability to use our marina is absolutely, definitely something that I would look into.
Commissioner?
Thank you so much, Nancy. And I believe the question that was posed was regarding water taxis from South Dade into the downtown, into the main areas, central areas of our county. And I think that's a wonderful and an excellent idea. I know it's been looked at in the past through prior commissioners, for example, Commissioner Katie Sorensen, but I do think that it needs to be looked at again. And I thank that resident for posing that question. And I will look into this. And the reason I say that, I just was a speaker at CoMotion, which is a co-mobility conference here in Miami-Dade County that focuses on innovation and new ways of getting people around. And there were some very interesting, innovative vehicles like water taxis that Miami-Dade County should explore to get our people from South Dade into the corridor for work and for leisure. And so I'm happy to look into that. And I thank the resident for that question.
Another question from someone who is watching. What is your view of the bill introduced by Senator Marco Rubio, Senator Rick Scott, and U.S. Representative Jimenez to prohibit civil aircraft from using Homestead Air Reserve Base? Commissioner?
This is not a bill that I'm familiar with at all. This is the first time that I'm hearing about this bill. So I certainly don't want to speak on a bill that I have not read before. But I know that HARB for many, many years, it's been discussed to turn that base into something other than an Air Force base, i.e. a commercial airport. And I certainly do not support that. So to the extent that that was helpful, I hope so, but I certainly can't speak to a bill that I have not read and been briefed on yet.
Thank you. Ms. Bias-Willis?
I also have not read that bill, but I do believe that there are other places around the country that are utilizing former full-time bases as joint use bases, not necessarily for commercial aircraft, but for other use, such as Amazon now has like 1 million square foot warehouse down there, and it could be utilized for that. But first we would have to do an environmental impact study to make sure that our environment down there, our waterways, the Key Biscayne area, is really protected. But I don't know about the specific wording to that bill that you're speaking to.
Understood. Let's pivot to the environment. Biscayne Bay is plagued by excess nutrients, bacteria, and plastic pollution, which led to a massive fish kill last year, and which has killed at least 80% of the seagrass. All of this which is essential and critical habitat for wildlife. What actions do you think should be taken to protect Biscayne Bay and the Everglades? Commissioner?
Yeah, such an important question. And our environment is our economy here in Miami-Dade County. The two are intertwined. And that's why I am so proud to have been elected the chairwoman of our Biscayne Bay Watershed Management Advisory Board in order to effectuate legislation to accomplish exactly that. And as the chairwoman of that board, I have passed legislation at the Board of County Commissioners that is being pushed forth in Tallahassee to get the dollars that we need to invest in our bay. It's called a reasonable assurance plan. This is a lengthy process. Tampa Bay has been able to accomplish it, but it takes many, many years. We need that reasonable assurance plan here in Miami-Dade County, and I'm proud of the legislation that I've passed in order to expedite that process. We have a deadline of November of this year to have the initial draft of that plan so that we can go to Tallahassee and get the dollars we need to invest in our Biscayne Bay. It is not only the green gem of our bay, it is also a critical part of our economy. And I have done everything, not just spoke about the things that I will do to continue to try to save our bay.
Ms. Baez-Willis?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting that we have all these water reports, but there has never been any sort of mitigating process that's ever been instituted. So in healthcare, when you have abnormal lab results and you don't do anything about them, it's considered malpractice, right? So we do have really poor water quality, and it's really important that as soon as I get in there, I will be looking at how we are monitoring our water runoff and what we're doing to mitigate those issues. We do need to immediately do that. We have microplastics. And in fact, I know that it's not a peer-reviewed article, but I did mention that the Angler magazine said that they checked current fish that they had caught off of Biscayne Bay, and it had birth control pills and hormones and all sort of blood pressure medication. And that's the food that we're eating. That is our revenue. That is part of our industry. So we need to institute immediate mitigating acts to make sure that our water quality improves so that we can eat the fish that we catch offshore.
Sticking with the environment, this question is from Miami Waterkeeper. How would your initiatives protect vulnerable communities that bear the brunt of climate change and achieve environmental justice and resilience? Commissioner?
I thank the Miami Waterkeeper for that incredible question. And our environment is not only for those that have, a position of affluence, right? Our environment is a critical resource for all of us to enjoy here in Miami-Dade County, whether that's the Everglades, which I've been out to visit many, many times, and our bay and everything in between, right? So I think information and communication is key. We talk about septic to sewer a lot and the $1 billion price tag that it's going to take to convert that, but it's under a false premise that everyone's septic tank is problematic. It's not true. Septic tanks are not problematic only if they are not maintained. If they are not maintained and they leak, then they become problematic. So everyone in our county that is owning a property needs to know about what they can do to keep their septic tanks clean. And I thank Commissioner Sosa for an initiative that she brought that will allow those that are having financial difficulties, and I co-sponsored this legislation, to be able to gain access to those dollars to help them maintain their septic tanks in a more responsible way to help save our bay and our environment.
Thank you. Ms. Baez-Willis.
So I currently in my home have a septic tank, and it is extremely difficult to keep. I do believe that there needs to be part of when we close on our homes, or when individuals are buying homes that have septic tank, there needs to be education that is also provided, because a septic tank, if you've never had one before, it's very difficult to maintain. And so having a broken septic tank, having annual inspections or biannual inspections, in that we assure that those septic tanks are not leaking into our waterway is important. And so, yes, thank you to the Waterkeeper, but septic to sewer is extremely pricey. We do need to be able to allow some sort of grant program to offset that expense, that an additional burden that we're having our homeowners face.
Well, so you mentioned septic to sewer. That could cost north of $3 billion. Are you saying are both of you saying that you would rather take these other alternate steps than find the funds to pay for septic to sewer conversion? Ms. Baez-Willis?
Look, $3 billion, when we have so many other low-hanging fruits that we need to address. If people have septic tanks right now that are functional, appropriate, and not leaking, we should not be forcing homeowners to convert to sewer if they choose not to. Again, making sure that their sewer system is appropriate, and that does come with education. But to have a homeowner really bear that impact of connecting to a sewer line, we need to have some sort of program that offsets that mandate that the county is going to come about. So I'm not a proponent of septic to sewer conversion if the septic tank is sound.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I believe the question was whether or not we support, the $3 billion spend or other measures. And my response to that question is that it's not either or, it's in conjunction with, right? There's no question that there are certain parts of our county that are connected and close to our bay where the septic to sewer conversion is almost absolutely necessary because of the rise in our sea levels. That's one situation. Out in the area that I represent in the Redland, many of the homes, and in Palmetto Bay and in Cutler Bay, many of our homes are on septic. Not all of those need to be connected to the sewer line, but it's not a question of either or, right? We do need to continue chasing those dollars in Washington, D.C. so that we can convert as many as possible, but we also need to spend a considerable amount of our $10 billion budget on educating our community on how they can keep their septic tanks safe, clean, and maintained.
Can each of you outline what some of the specific safety and security issues are as you see it in District 8? Commissioner?
So, it's interesting because District 8 is very diverse and there are safety issues in different parts of our district. And so, we look at, for example, there is a lot of illegal burning and illegal dumping and partying that's going on until late, for example, that are not in compliance with our law. There's also shootings that are going on in our district or just outside of our district that is, heart-wrenching. And these are safety concerns that are brought to our attention all the time. And it's really unfortunate. In addition, as I mentioned in my opening, there are parts of our district in the Redland where residents are waiting upwards of 15 minutes for a response to a 911 call. I mean, this can't happen. That's exactly why I moved our Ag Patrol from the hammocks to the Redlands so that response times can be reduced significantly, right? And so there are a number of safety concerns, but thankfully we have an incredible Miami-Dade Police Department. I'm thankful for their support and the PBA's endorsement in my candidacy and the community working together with our officers and continuing to make sure that they have the resources that they need, including looking at installing shot spotters in certain parts of District 8 where they currently don't exist, will certainly help to mitigate some of our safety concerns here in South Dade.
Thank you. Ms. Bias-Willis?
Well, thank you, Nancy. That is a very complicated question. And I really did feel the impact of the violence that we have in South Dade as a receiving trauma center. And I'm not trying to perseverate on that. I actually lived it. And so it's not just about gun violence. We have penetrating trauma that's coming from the southern end of the county. We have a lot of people that need to have outreach. We need to educate. We need to have our community policing in there. I would not say that our police force is taking upwards of 20 minutes to respond. That's outside of the guidelines of national organizations for policing. Shot spotter technology, absolutely. If you don't know what shot spotter technology is, it utilizes satellites to deploy the closest police officer. We need to invest more in that. But if we're having 20-minute response times, what we need to have is more police accessible and in those areas. And as far as the illegal dumping, illegal fires, and the illegal venues in the Redlands, having spoken with the Redlands Association, what they're having difficulty with is they're actually asking for facilitating permitting so that these venues can become open and so that people can utilize them and they can be permitted.
On the same note as safety, starting in 2024, county voters are going to elect a sheriff. Some commissioners want to keep most law enforcement duties under the Miami-Dade Police Department. Others want to transfer them to the new sheriff's department. What is your position, especially as it pertains to what would result in a safer Miami-Dade? Commissioner?
So I've had many conversations with our law enforcement officers on this issue, and the resounding response that I have received is that they want to stay the Miami-Dade Police Department under the current administration. And when I speak with our law enforcement officers who are out there every day risking their lives, and they articulate to me for a number of reasons, including, and most importantly, continuity of service to the residents of Miami-Dade County, that is going to carry weight with me, in my opinion. And so previously I voted to keep the Miami-Dade County Police Department under the current administration, and that's the way that I will continue to vote on that issue.
Thank you. Ms. Bias-Willis?
Well, thank you for that. I do believe, having worked in other locations that do have sheriffs in conjunction with police department, that it would have some sort of fragment in their response time. We do need to keep the Miami-Dade Police Department intact. Also, that's going to impact the fire department and who they actually respond to. Additionally, I do believe in the home rule. And so when the sheriff comes to town, literally in 2024, really working with the sheriff, with Miami-Dade Police Department. And we need to also remember, we have an additional police force here. We have Miami-Dade police in our school system, and how that's going to impact their response time, who's going to take what. So, it's going to be up to the commission as to what areas the different policing units will be covering, in addition with the sheriff department. But the Miami-Dade police unit needs to stay intact.
Thank you. There are two commissioners, Commissioner Joe Martinez and Raquel Regalado, who are calling for tax cuts in the new county budget. The mayor proposed a 1% tax cut. Others are proposing 3%. What's your position on this? Ms. Baez-Willis?
Currently our taxpayers are so burdened with the cost of everything, cost of food, cost of fuel, cost of living. And really, we needed to look at how we can decrease that impact. And I believe that our current commission had the ability to really decrease that impact on our current taxpayers by allowing them to kind of roll back somewhat more aggressively, maybe the 3%, what we have as a current tax burden. And maybe we needed to trim a little bit of the fat and look at where we can save without really compromising public safety. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that everybody pays their due share of our taxes. And so we need to make sure people pay their taxes. But a 1%, I really do not think that it's enough of to mitigate the burden that our current homeowners are carrying right now. And that will be passed on to renters. So I believe it should have been somewhat more aggressive than just a 1% cut.
Okay. I'm sorry, Commissioner?
Yeah, and so this is an issue that we voted on initially at our last BCC meeting, but we'll take the final vote during budget hearings in September. And I supported the mayor's 1% decrease because there hasn't been a decrease in our tax rate in Miami-Dade County for years. And it sounds wonderful. Let's be aggressive in cutting taxes. Let's cut back as much as we can. Let's trim the fat. Except what happens next year? What happens the year after that? What I do not want to do is move in haste and in any way jeopardize the residents of Miami-Dade County by placing too steep of a cut before our residents and then having to increase our taxes a year later, because guess what? Our trash is not getting picked up, our water is filthy, and other services that we rely upon every single day are being cut back. So I do support the mayor's 1% decrease because I do not want an aggressive cut now just to show bells and whistles that we were aggressive in cutting taxes, only to have to raise those taxes a year later. I do not think that's prudent. I do not think that's in the best interest of the residents of Miami-Dade County.
As you both campaign in this district, what do you hear from the district's African-American residents, perhaps low-income residents? Are there specific challenges that you are telling them you can address, Commissioner?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for posing that question. And our African-American community is very strong and very proud and very robust in South Dade and in District 8. And I am a member of that community and one of 5 Black commissioners on the Miami-Dade County Board of County Commissioners. And so when I receive phone calls and hear those concerns, I pay attention closely like I do to all of our residents. And it's for that reason that I created our Safe Summers program. I was told that our young people are too idle and they're in the streets and they're not occupied when they're out of school. That's exactly why we created Safe Summers, which allowed 400 young people to be engaged in robotics and arts and athletics and learning during the summer program. And it was so successful that we created Safe Spaces, which allows for our children to be engaged in after-school programs. And these are for families that may not have the resources to be able to pay for those after-school resources. And again, our African-American communities is obviously very, very diverse. These are our business owners. These are our school teachers. And so the issues that are being discussed in our African-American community are all of the issues that we're facing here in Miami-Dade County, which is why I created the Mom and Pop Small Business Grant Program, the Small Business Academy, doing everything I can to help our small businesses and all of our residents, including our African-American residents in District 8.
Thank you. Ms. Baez-Willis.
Thank you so much for that question. And I do believe the mom and pop grant program exists in all districts, so it's not just in District 8. But really, it's about having resources in our communities. We do have informal and formal leaders within our communities. And I do believe also that if we, in these African communities, their main concern also is their security and their safety. But by actually injecting police in there that have involvement, that are invested, and they can really reach out to that community, it does add enrichment. Additionally, a lot of people are not aware of what programs are actually free or available. So being able to educate the community, there's actually a great not-for-profit in District 8 called the Be Strong Foundation, and it helps with relationships, resources. I had an opportunity to sit with them and listen to what their CEO had to say. So really, it's educating the community about what resources are available and what the county is providing, and educating them as to what is there for them to utilize. But they're also concerned about being displaced from their homes, having those homes tear down, and then having new homes built in there, and they won't even to be able to afford those rents or those mortgages in those homes. So there are a lot of concerns in our African communities within the district.
Thank you. This comes from the Parks Foundation. Thrive 305, it took a survey of over 25,000 residents in the county. It was completed last year. They noted that parks are a top priority. Since the residential area becomes community once parks are developed to include housing and transit, we're back to those two important issues, what will you do to ensure there is access to parks in communities with affordable housing? Ms. Baez-Willis.
We absolutely need to make sure when we have these homes being built and planned that we do have green spaces, spaces that are usable and friendly, that provide shelter, that families can go out and utilize, and have community events so that you do want to bring that community together. Additionally, there are other green spaces that have initiatives with our Arts in the Parks program. And if you look under our rail system, there's a beautiful park that's being built all along the rail system that is an additional space for green spaces. Also, including our tree canopy and adding more greenery and trees to our area. And I know that Ms. Cohen-Higgins has been part of that, and increasing our trees and our canopy will just beautify our parks. But we do need to make sure that when we are building either affordable housing or any sort of housing, that we do have to plan for green spaces and parks in those areas.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I'm proud to share that District 8 has the largest number of parks of any district in Miami-Dade County. We do love our parks here in District 8, whether it's the Deering Estate or Sadowski Park. There are so many parks in District 8 to name, and I have prioritized our park. Bill Sadowski Park is getting completely renovated, and I can't wait to share that with the residents. Our golf course, right? Palmetto Golf Course is going to have a major overhaul to the tune of upwards of $3 million, and I'm looking forward to sharing that as well. And listen, a big message out to Waterstone in Homestead. I just had many meetings with that community that had open space there that was not developed. It was vacant. And I conveyed that land to that homeowners association so that they could turn it into a park for their community. So, again, another example of not just talking about things that might be done or can be done or should be done. These are things that I am actually getting done for the residents of District 8 right now. We love our parks, and I will continue to prioritize exactly that.
We are running out of time. I want to make sure to ask this question. This is from the Disability Independence Group. Disabled individuals want housing in mainstream buildings or scattered site housing, and not special buildings for special people. What will you do to address the need for affordable, integrated, accessible housing for people with disabilities? Commissioner?
Yeah, and so this is our able-bodied community, right? I mean, and I am a big supporter of the Friendship Circle and the incredible work that they do there. I have supported them. I will continue to support them in a very big way regarding a wonderful infrastructure and several buildings that they are constructing for this community. And I will continue to support that in any way, because you're right. This is not a matter of creating housing that is less than or substandard. This is just creating different housing. And the Friendship Circle is actually a model of exactly that. They're going to be constructing these residence types and training facilities and all of these wonderful spaces that I continue to be very anxious about them completing. Will continue to support. But on the dais, we have very strong advocates of the disabled community. And I continue to support every measure that they bring forth, including employment opportunities at Miami-Dade County. You know, Commissioner Regalado, she always refers to the neurodivergent community, and she is such a staunch advocate, and I am lock in step with her in supporting everything that she brings forward because she is an expert in this area, and I will continue to support those efforts.
Ms. Bias-Willis.
Thank you so much for bringing up that topic, because as a nurse, obviously disabled individuals and caring for them is a challenge. One of the things I have heard is not just about disability and their housing, but it's really about transporting the disabled and how difficult it is for them to utilize public transportation if they are disabled. So yes, the friendship circle, we need to make sure that we encourage individuals to maintain an independent living, even though they are able-bodied. And we have to do whatever necessary to encourage that independent living. But additionally, we also need to look at housing for our disabled vets. And so one of the things that we don't have here within the southern part of Dade County, it's actually not either Naval Air Station Key West or up in Palm Beach County, is an Office of Veteran Services, so that we can offer them linkages to services for our disabled vets that are either homeless or in need of additional services. So even though we do have a necessity of providing this for our current residents, we also have a need for disabled veterans within the Miami-Dade County area.
Thank you. Can you both talk about, your district does take in at least some of Homestead, some of the Redlands. Can you talk about whether you see a tension between the agricultural community, the land that is being used to grow so much of the food that is exported across the country, and development, Ms. Bias-Willis?
So I have been really walking the Redlands and the Homestead area. And one of the things that there is a resounding concern about is that agriculture is our second most popular industry here within Miami-Dade County. They are concerned about preserving their 5-acre rule. They are concerned about the fact that areas that are currently zoned for agriculture, such as in the Waterstone area, are being converted to residences. So they're very concerned about their having their livelihoods and their spaces that are zoned for agriculture slowly being taken away and overcome by development. As you go down the US 1 corridor and you head east, there are areas that you are not even recognizable as the Redlands that I grew up in here in Southern Dade. It's just really blowing away with development. So they're very concerned about what's going on with the agriculture community here, and what's going on with the 5-acre rule. So yes, both down in Homestead and in the Redlands area, there is absolute concern about the changing of zoning from agriculture to housing.
Okay, how would you address that?
I really believe that as our second most populous, not populous, but as our second industry, we need to preserve agriculture. We're growing tomatoes. We have an amazing fish farm down there that's been invested in salmon. It's part of our culture. It's part of our community. And so, yes, housing is a crisis, but we do need to preserve the culture of that area. And the Redlands community is an agriculture community. And so we need to stand by them and how they see their community fit in the future, and not really impose growth, sprawl, and development upon them if that's not what that community chooses. And I think they have an additional impact or problem is that they're not incorporated, right? They're part of the unincorporated area. So they don't have a mayor that can speak for them. It's really their county commissioner.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Yeah, so your question was whether there's this tension between the agricultural community and the development community. And there is a tension, but this boils down to property rights. If you are a row cropper in South Dade and in the Redland and District 8, you have seen unbelievable struggle recently. And it's not because only of issues in Miami-Dade County. These are going on national and international levels, including NATO and things that are just making it far more difficult for them to do the business that their fathers and their grandfathers did. So what are they left to do if they're now row cropping at no profit, at a loss year after year? They're being faced with very difficult decisions. These are property owners that are being approached by developers to say, we will buy your land and we will get you out of this bind. How are we to say to those landowners, you can't sell the land? Well, you can sell the land, and then the developers come to the commission and ask for zoning changes. I have said no to a number of developers if the applications before our board are not fitting with the community. So it is upon us to have these applications zoned appropriately, but there are a number of farmers and agricultural members of our community that are faced with very, very tough decisions, and we have to balance those interests. And so I will continue to do so, including adding incentives to our farmers and our landowners in the Redland that will allow them to make an alternative decision. If the developer is saying, I'll offer you this for your land, maybe the county can come in and offer some sort of a subsidy.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to thank both of the candidates for the County Commission District 8 seat. And I would like to give them, one, a chance to make just a 60-second closing statement. And two, I would like to apologize to Ms. Baez-Wallace for mispronouncing her name for much of this interview. Can you make just a brief closing statement to make the case for your election, Commissioner?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who do you want to?
Sorry, I thought you said Commissioner. I'm sorry.
I did.
Oh, okay. And then Karen started speaking. So.
Oh no, I'm speaking to Commissioner Cohen-Higgins. Just make a very brief closing statement, and then we'll move to Ms. Baez-Wallace.
Yes, and thank you again, Nancy, to the Miami Foundation, to all the partners, and to the residents that are watching. You know, I believe that District 8 deserves the voice and the advocate that is trusted and that is known, that has delivered results for them for the last 18 months, and that deserves, you know, the opportunity to continue fighting for each and every resident of District 8, the place where I was born and where I was raised. I've been a trial attorney for the last 16 years, a small business owner for the last 13 years. I'm a mother and a hard worker and a member of this community, and I humbly ask for your vote on August 23rd with early voting on August 8th for Danielle Cohen-Higgins to continue fighting for you and to continue serving as your Miami-Dade County Commissioner for District 8.
Thank you. And Ms. Baez-Wallace.
And Nancy, no problems with my last name, because at the end of the day, people that are hard of hearing or unable to listen, it doesn't matter. I'm number 115 on your ballot. My name is Karen Biswallis, and I am your candidate for Miami-Dade County Commissioner for Miami-Dade. I'm your candidate for change. I'm your candidate with a proven record of honesty, integrity, and not for 16 months or 16 years, but for 26 years, I have served you as an advocate consistently. I'm ethical, I've addressed the issues, and I have been present. I am your voice. Yo soy su voz. I have been your voice in healthcare as a healthcare worker, and I vow and I continue to advocate for you, the residents, not lobbyists, not special interest group, but for you. So I am your candidate. I am the people's voice candidate. And thank you so much for this opportunity to be able to speak to the residents of District 8.
I'd like to thank you both very much, and our viewers for their very astute and probing questions. And I wish everyone good night, and I wish both of our candidates good luck.
Thank you.